Gemara. The Gemara's focus is, we had a statement that Rava said that a non-Kohen who ate from a korban ola, and a korban ola is a korban that's called a burnt offering. The reason why it's called a burnt offering is because the whole thing is supposed to be eaten on the mizbeach. Sorry, eaten by the mizbeach, by the altar. And here what happened was, he wasn't supposed to eat it. Nobody was supposed to eat it. And so the Zar, the non-Kohen, and a non-Kohen generally does not eat. Welcome back, Adam. And a non-Kohen, good morning, Mark. A non-Kohen can't eat holy. So there's a lot of things going on here, a lot of violations of the Torah. Good morning, Dr. Navid. A lot of violations of the Torah that are happening as a result of, good morning, Mr. Shafty. Happening as a result of this action. And Rava says he could find, whether it's from things that are written openly in the Torah or through Kal V'chomer, there's at least 5 violations that are happening as a result of this act, this one act of a non-Kohen eating holy outside the Jerusalem. We are on page Yud Ches Amud Aleph, 18a, and the article is 18a2 on the bottom. So the Gemara had a question. Rava came to tell us a number, magic number 5. There's 5 violations happening. Once you're being specific and identifying the amount of violations, so if you're saying 5, you mean there's only 5. You're being very specific. Now the Gemara wants to understand, why is there only 5? There should be more. And that's what the Gemara is going through. So then the next question the Gemara asks, why shouldn't he be violating a different prohibition based on the teaching of Rabbi Eliezer? Now, why do we need Rabbi Eliezer if it's a pasuk in the Torah? So why do we need Rabbi Eliezer to teach it? Why do we need to bring him in? Because he takes the pasuk in the Torah, and even though the pasuk is written by a specific case, he understands that prohibition is not limited to that specific case. Rather, he understands that the Torah is giving a prohibition in a much broader sense. Let's see how does he come up with that? The Amar Rabbi Eliezer. We're in the last line of the page, Dr. Navid, the last line of the page. The Amar Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer says the following. There's a pasuk in the Torah where it talks about, this is talking about the korbanos, the offerings that were brought when they inaugurated the Mishkan, the tabernacle. The pasuk says, if meat is left over to the morning, you have to burn. It's supposed to be eaten that day and that night. It's not supposed to be left over to the morning. And if meat is left over to the morning, you have to burn it. And the Torah says, not only you have to burn it, the Torah says, a losa say there will be a violation of a negative of a don't of the Torah. I don't want to call it a negative commandment. The Torah is only positive. There's no such thing as negative in the Torah. That's not right, Jaime. I don't like to call that a negative commandment, a positive commandment. All the negatives, Mr. Safdie, are positive, right? Everyone like that? I got nice smiles around the room over here. There's no negative commandments in the Torah. All the don'ts of the Torah are all for our benefit. You like that, Dr. David? You like that? No negative commandments. So there's the don'ts of the Torah, and all the don'ts are for our benefit. Every mitzvah makes us a better person, makes us a different person. So I just was speaking to someone yesterday. I told him from Rabbi David Feinstein of blessed memory, what I heard live once upon a time. It says, Zot chukat haTorah. Says this is the chok of the Torah. As we know, that's referred to paraduma, the red heifer, that if somebody was tamei, someone came in contact with a dead body, they would sprinkle the ashes of the paraduma on the person, and he would become tahar, he would become clean. And the people involved in the processing of this paraduma, morning, Mr. Haber, those people became tamei. And it's something that we don't understand. Good morning. How is it, why is it that the people involved in the processing of the paraduma, they become contaminated, but the people who were, but yet, if they use the ashes on someone else, that person becomes clean. We don't understand how that works. That's called the chok of the Torah. So he said, Zot chukata Torah. The chok of the Torah is something that we don't understand how it works, but it works. Just like, you don't understand how your kidneys work. Not everyone understands how it works. Maybe a doctor might understand. Not everyone understands how everything works in the body, but it works. So that's the same thing with Torah. The chok of the Torah, the thing that we don't understand how it works is anything you learn in Torah, even if it's something that seems to be so, you're talking about a yavama, a lady, or you're talking about certain laws you talk about certain things about, let's say, the meat that comes out of what we're discussing today, the meat of the olah that was eaten outside the temple. You don't understand that that's going to purify you. It purifies, Zos Chukata Torah, anything of the Torah, any Torah study purifies your soul, has an impact on you, and it makes you a more purer person. It cleanses you. So that's what you need to realize. That's the chok of the Torah. That's something that we don't know how that works. Why, if we learn about this item of eating outside Jerusalem, if he eats the korban olah, he's going to get multiple violations. That's going to make me a better person. The Torah is a cleanser. Anything of Torah purifies the person. So the Gemara said, what did you say? Even the subject doesn't seem to has anything to do with growth as a person. It doesn't seem to, it's not talking about how you have to treat your parents. It's not talking about any of that. It's talking about some other, what do you call it, abstract subject, if that's the right word. But it all makes you a better person. Okay, let's continue in the Gemara. So the Lilki Nambike Rabbi Eliezer. Good morning, Charles. Thank you for joining in. We are on 18a. So Velilki Nambike Rabbi Eliezer lo yochal. The pasuk says you cannot eat the korban that you left over to the morning. That was no sad and no tal. The Torah says don't leave over. You left over. You can't eat it. Ki kadoshu, because it is holy. Now, what does it mean it is holy? It means because since it became invalid, once it became invalid because you left it over to the morning. You left it over to the morning, now this item becomes invalid. It's no longer, it becomes unfit. And now that you have made something that's unfit, this thing that's unfit, the Torah says, becomes forbidden. Lo yeyachel. You cannot eat this item that became unfit. Good morning, Michael. Because this thing, once the food was left overnight, right? And the Torah says that food that leaves overnight, it makes it unfit, right? The leaving overnight, meaning certain things, the Torah says it gives a specific time period when you have to eat it by. And the Torah says about this leaving overnight, the Torah says you have to burn it. If you left it overnight, it loses its status of use, that you're supposed to use it. Now it's unfit. Now the Torah, what does the Torah say about this food, this korban, this offering that you left overnight? The Torah says you've got to burn it. Okay, Mr. Haber, you got to burn this thing. Meaning you're burning it because not you're burning it as an offering. You're burning it because you did something wrong. You left it over, and now it becomes unfit for you to eat.
Is it called notar?
It's called notas, Mr. Silverman says. It's called notas. You left it overnight.
That's not right.
What you used it? The time made it unfit. The time by lapsing a certain amount of time by not eating it by a specific mandated time, that makes it unfit. Now it's no longer. You have to burn it. You have to, and that might be the fix for that violation, maybe of leaving it overnight. But that's what the Torah says you have to do for this item that became unfit. And the pasuk says, not only the Torah says you got to burn it, the Torah gives a don't on the deal too. Not only a positive commandment, burn it, which would be a positive commandment. Now the Torah gives you a don't. What's the don't? The Torah says don't eat it. That you could infer if you have to burn it, that means you can't eat it, right? But it says burn it and don't eat it. It says Misarafta don't, and now, but then the Torah says why, then the Torah gives a reason why I'm telling you the don't. Why I'm telling you don't eat this item. The Torah says Ki Kodeshu. Because this item was something that was holy, and it became unfit because you left it over, and therefore that's the reason why this item has to be burnt. That's why you can't eat it. Why can't you eat it? Because this is something that was holy that became unfit.
But the source it's giving doesn't even.
Okay. Very good. The source that the Gemara is giving, the pasuk, the case of the Torah is, if you left it overnight, and as a result of you leaving it overnight, the thing became unfit. That is the case. But now that the Torah says, now we're turning the page, that the Torah tells us what is the reason why you can't eat it? Because it's something that was holy that became unfit. So now that you're telling me a reason for this law, and now we could broaden it. Comes Rabbi Eliezer and he said, now this don't, morning Simon, this don't of the Torah applies to any holy item that's not fit. Exactly, like Mr. Asmi said. So now any holy item that's not fit, that became not fit, there's now a prohibition for you to eat. So therefore comes the Gemara and says, that's the case. So why didn't Rava list a sixth prohibition? Because this food, this carbon ola that left, the meat of the carbon ola that was supposed to be burnt on the altar, if it leaves Yerushalayim, it becomes unfit. If it leaves Yerushalayim, if it leaves the courtyard, the meat becomes unfit. So once this meat becomes unfit when it was removed from the courtyard, now the violation should kick in, this violation of don't eat holy food that became unfit. So that's the Gemara's question. What do you say? This pasuk says, if you look at the bottom of Yud Ches Amud Aleph, 18a. Dr. David, 18a. Lo yochal, the last line. Ki kodeshu. Don't eat this food because it was holy, and it's an open pasuk. Don't eat it, and it tells you the reason. You can't eat it because it was holy food that became invalid. So therefore, the Gemara is saying that should be a mamatzina.
Rabbi.
Allah, it's a lo saseh. They're talking about a pasuk, which is a lo saseh. What do you say, Allah? No, very good. It's an open pasuk about some other korban, but it gives a reason.
Rabbi, what's the reason why you have to burn?
Say that again, Charles?
What's the reason why you have to burn it?
because since it's holy and now it can't be used, so it could be behind the reason. Charles asking a great question. Why does the Torah say you have to burn it? It could be one of the reasons is the Torah wants to create a safeguard that nobody should make a mistake and eat it, because now that it became invalid because you left it overnight. So one idea could be we don't want people to come to eat from it. What do you say?
The same reason why they're saying you can't eat it is the reason why you have to burn it, correct?
It could be different. It could be different reasons, but the reason why the Gemara, the reason why we can't eat it is because it became invalid, and now it became the reason. That's why he said you can't eat it. The reason you can't eat it is because anything that became, again, the Torah is giving an extra prohibition, or the Torah is telling us you're prohibited to eat this food because it is holy food that became invalid. I'm creating a don't on such a thing. I'm creating, because really I can't eat it because the Torah already told me to burn it.
Right.
Without the Torah even telling me don't eat it, I can't eat it. Torah says burn it. But the Torah wants to give us, sometimes the Torah could tell us a positive thing we need to do, burn it. And the Torah also sometimes tells us what we're not allowed to do in a negative sense. Well, I don't want to say negative. And don't. It could serve as that as well. But the Torah is telling us, I'm giving you a extra prohibition in a sense of a losa say. I'm creating a don't on this food by telling you don't eat this because it's food that was holy food, but became invalid. It's not usable. It's not something was done wrong over here, and now it's not. You're not going to the korban. It's not going to be used for the korban. You can't use it for the korban anymore. There's something wrong. It was left over. Something wrong happened here. You weren't supposed to leave this overnight. You left it overnight. Now this becomes unfit for the use of what it was supposed to be brought as an atonement. It's no longer be able. Now, once it's invalid for this to accomplish what it was supposed to accomplish, because you're supposed to eat it before the morning. Now we're going to kick in a don't on the deal. No, this is talking about the korban of the Mishkan. It's talking about the korban of the Mishkan, which was things that you were supposed to eat. Min al-lachem, you left over the bread to the morning. This is talking about the korban. One second. Very good. Very good. But good, Mr. Safdie said yes. The pasuk, the source, the case of the Torah where it says don't eat it because it became invalid. The case was talking about when they brought special offerings in honor of the dedication of the Mishkan. When they set up the Mishkan on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, right after everybody went ahead and gave donations, it was one of the greatest appeals of all time because they said they had enough. Usually appeals never have enough. You never brought, but the Jewish people responded with tremendous outpouring of their hearts, and they had more than enough. They told them it's enough. We don't need any more. So then there was a whole process, like the 8-day celebration, an 8-day of the setting up and taking apart of the Mishkan.
It started the 25th, I think, of
Adar, and ended.
It culminated on Nisan.
Maybe a little bit before the 25th, because the 8th day was Rosh
Chodesh. Moshe Rabbeinu put it up and took it down, and he also wore special begadim like Kohen Gadol.
Right? So it's a little bit before
He wore white.
So Rosh Chodesh Nisan was when it was set up. It was permanently set. I mean, that's when it was finished, the inauguration process. Okay, so now again, Mr. Safdie, but those were korbanot that you were able to eat.
Anyway.
And the Kohanim that were involved in but now the Gemara is learning, but our Gemara, what does it do with our Gemara? Because the Gemara is saying, look, that the Torah gives a reason why you cannot eat this korban. If it left, exactly. Now the Gemara is saying, Mr. Safdie, once you're telling me the reason why you can't eat it over there, that should apply to the Olah. Why should it apply to the Olah? Because the same way something became unfit, it's something that was holy and no more can be fit to be used in the state that was supposed to be used for. You telling me you're not allowed to eat it? So too, the Olah, that if it left the courtyard of the Beit HaMikdash, that's the Gemara's going to answer that. The Gemara's going to answer that to say why that's going to make a difference. Okay, but the Gemara in the Gemara's question, just let's get it clear. The Gemara's question is, we have a precedent on the books, in the Holy Torah. I don't know if you call it on the books. The Holy Torah, I don't know if it's proper to talk like that. The Holy Torah says that something that was holy that became unfit for its use, there's a don't eat, you can't eat that food.
Oh,
So the Gemara wants to say, based on that, it should apply to anything that it was holy, that became unfit, you should not be able to eat it. There's a violation of don't eat it. So that's what the Gemara is saying. We're trying to find it. We want to know if there's a sixth violation. That's what we're trying to figure out. That's what the Gemara said. The Gemara said, right? We want to know if there's a sixth violation if a non-Kohen goes ahead and he eats from a korban olah outside the walls of Jerusalem. So the Gemara said, look at the top of the page. Ba'akatuv. Kol shebekodesh pasul. Anything that's holy that became invalid. The Torah is coming to tell us there's a violation. You're not allowed to eat the item that was holy that became unfit. So why don't we apply this verse to the korban olah that left the courtyard, and as a result of that became unfit? So the Gemara answers what Mark said. The pasuk here is talking about specifically something that was once fit to be eaten. What's the case of the Torah? That you were supposed to eat this before the morning. And the Torah says this item that you were supposed to eat before the morning, that was holy. So any item that you were supposed to eat and becomes invalid, then that's true. We could apply it to any case in the Torah that you were supposed to eat, they had the ability to eat, and then it became invalid. You would have to, you now, there's a prohibition to eat it. But this case, you never had the ability to eat it, because this was olah. This case, the case of Rava was a korban olah. A korban olah is never able to be eaten. A korban olah is an offering that's totally consumed on the altar. So therefore, this prohibition of the Torah, when the Torah says you can't eat the item that was holy and became invalid, does not apply to an olah.
It's to a shelamim.
What you say it applies to a shlamim, but it doesn't apply to an olah. So that's what the Gemara is. Honey milei. Now we're in the Gemara on 18b, second line from the top. Honey milei. When is the verse talking about? When does this violation kick in? It's if before it became invalid, it was fit to be eaten. But over here in our case, in our Gemara, you see it, Mr. Ashby, inside? The kodem pesulo. Before it even became invalid, before you took the meat of the korban olah out of the courtyard, before it was not fit to be eaten because it has to be totally burnt. So therefore, this violation does not apply in this specific case of Rava, and therefore Rava doesn't list it as a sixth violation. Okay, now the Gemara says, I got one more try. I think it's going to be one more try. And I think the Gemara is going to win. You're going to see the Gemara is going to win and not win. Let's see. V'lilki nami ki'iduch Rabbi Eliezer. We have a final, the Gemara, after looking through the whole Torah, got one more possible violation on this deal. V'lilki nami ki'iduch Rabbi Eliezer. I happened to have been in a car last night with someone, and they got 2 tickets, 2 violations or something. So sometimes I told you, sometimes you get multiple, one act, they get multiple violations. Maybe I shouldn't have spoken. I gave that as an example in the share the other day. And last night I was in a car with someone who was driving, and it was raining, and they didn't see the line, and they ran into a place with not the right line, and they got 2 tickets for one. They didn't have their license on them. That's not a big ticket. But the other ticket is a real ticket. So sometimes for one act, you got multiple violations. They got the captain to give them more. So now here we're talking about how many violations for this act. So the Gemara said, let's give lashes for a different statement, Rabbi Eliezer. What did Rabbi Eliezer say? Okay, but like we said, the word lashes of the Gemara could mean actually literally lashes or at least a violation. The Tanya, we learned in a Breita. Rabbi Eliezer Omer. Rabbi Eliezer says, Kol shehu b'kolil tiyeh. The pasuk says about a mincha of a kohen. When a kohen brings a korban mincha, a piece, a present, it's called a mincha, as a present. And by the way, I think why is davening mincha every day? Why is mincha services in the afternoon called? Why is it called mincha? Mincha is a present. That's what a mincha. You give a mincha, a present, like it says. Yaakov sent a mincha le'Esav, a present to Esav, to try to buy him. Give him some money to keep me safe. So I don't remember who I heard it from, but I heard a beautiful idea. Mincha is the hardest davening of the day.
Yaakov Yitzchak Avinu represents.
It's Yitzchak Avinu, very, very good. I will explain what Mr. Silverman just said. Mincha. So why is Mincha the hardest? Because Mincha is smack in the middle of the day. What if it's Shachrit? It's before the day, before you got Ma'ariv at night. At the end it's dark. You daven Ma'ariv. But Mincha is during the day. So that's called a present. Prayer of the day, and that's the Mincha. Mr. Silverman said that it's also Mincha was instituted, and Yitzchak was the one who was willing to give of himself, to sacrifice himself to Akedat Yitzchak. Yitzchak comes, when you think of Yitzchak, you think of sacrifice. He didn't sacrifice. Hashem did not want him to get killed. But that's called sacrifice. So it's interesting that he's the one who, according to the Gemara in Brachot, he's the one who instituted mincha. He understands what sacrifice. If you're a man who's ready to sacrifice, you could say, tell the boys, tell everyone, let's do it. We could do it. How do you like that, Mr. Ava? So Yitzchak, that's the chiddush that's coming to the world right now. That's why Yitzchak is the man, Mr. Silverman, to create that, right? That's why he's the man to create what? Because at present, when you stop in the middle of that busy day, you're in your office at 3:00 in the afternoon, and you stop down in your middle of Dr. Navid. You're in the middle of doing a surgery, and Dr. Navid is a dentist. He's doing surgeries on people's mouths, and he stops in the middle of his day to daven mincha. That's you're giving God. You're really giving. Okay, obviously, you're supposed to try to daven a minyan. You're supposed to daven with a minyan, but if you can't daven with a minyan for whatever reason, but you have to daven. Of course, you're supposed to work hard to get to a minyan, but it's not all, right, Ariel? It's not all or nothing. It's not.
Noach didn't have a minyan.
Right, it's not,
Let's go back.
okay, let's go back to the Gemara. Okay, so the Gemara said, but again, let's try to always get a minyan, everybody. Let's not walk out of here without the minyan. So the Gemara said, Rabbi Eliezer Omer. Rabbi Eliezer says, Kol shehu b'kol tiyeh. The pasuk says, by the mincha of the Kohen, no part, it's completely consumed on the mizbeach. No part of the mincha, no part of the korban when a Kohen brings the mincha, no part of it is eaten by the Kohen. And the pasuk says, "B'chol minchat haKohen, kolil tiyeh." It has to be consumed, completely consumed on the altar, nothing eaten by the Kohen. Lo se'achem. The Torah says, completely consumed and not eaten. So what does the Gemara say? Okay, that's the pasuk by the Kohen. So comes Rabbi Eliezer, and he says, you know what? The Torah tells us something that's consumed cannot be eaten. There's a los aseh, meaning there's an aseh, there's a positive commandment thing. Go ahead, burn it on the mizbeach, completely burn it. But it's not only a positive thing that you have to do, it's also a don't on the deal. There's a don't eat it. Okay? So we have an aseh and a los aseh on the deal. But the fact that the pasuk connects the thing that you can't do to the fact that you have to be consumed on the mizbeach. So comes Rabbi Eliezer and he expounds and he says, anything that's similar to that korban, anything that's supposed to be consumed, korban olah, that's supposed to be consumed on the mizbeach. It's not a mincha of Kohen. A korban olah, also, if you have to consume it, has to be burnt completely on the mizbeach. There's also a los aseh, a don't on the deal. Don't eat it. So now that we have a don't on the deal, so we found the number 6. We found that this korban olah, that if the non-Kohen would eat it outside the what? The walls of Jerusalem, he should be violating this violation. Because the Torah says something that's supposed to be consumed on the altar, you're not allowed to eat it. There's a los aseh, there's a don't on the deal. And we'll give him lashes for that, right?
Didn't the Kohen, Rabbi, didn't the Kohen get parts of it? He got a piece of it.
Not
a mincha of a Kohen.
Not a mincha, but olah.
Olah is completely olah is completely consumed. That's why it's olah. It's called an olah.
What do they get the piece of? What do they get? What do they get the thigh?
The chatat, they get a piece of the chatat, the shlamim. That's what they get. They don't get on the olah. So the Gemara says that's the Gemara's question. Again, everybody, we got the Gemara's question clear. Mr. Haber, the Gemara's question is: we found a pasuk that says that something is supposed to be consumed on the mizbeach. There's a don't on the deal. Don't eat it. So why? So this korban olah that was supposed to be consumed on the altar. So we should have number 6, another 6 violation. Your Torah says you shouldn't eat it. So the Gemara says, I agree with you. The Gemara gives in. It's number 6, but it's number 6 from a different pasuk. And Rava's 5. When Rava lists 5, he was listing 5 from this verse, from the pasuk that Rabbi Shimon that we used earlier, when the Torah says you can't eat in your gates the bikurim, the firstborn. You can't eat in your gates. You can't eat it outside Yerushalayim. That verse, there's 5 from that verse. But the fact that you find me number 6, Rava didn't mean there's not more than, Rava might agree there's more than 5 on the deal. But when he says there's 5 on the deal, when he's referring to the 5 violations that are connected to this verse, to one verse, that's what Rava means. That's what the Gemara said.
Now you say act.
The same act could have 6 violations, correct? But from a different verse. But the novelty, when Rava comes to say a non-Kohen eats the korban olah outside the walls of Jerusalem, he gets 5 violations. The novelty, he's coming to tell us that I have from one pasuk, from one verse, I could see 5 violations. That's what he's coming to say. He's not coming to tell us a total how many violations in total. But from one verse, I can figure out 5. That's unique.
Rabbi, why does it say a non-Kohen? Why does it say a Kohen can't eat it?
Because then a Kohen would have, he would not have 5. Very good. You're right. He wouldn't get 5 violations of the deal. He'll get 4 violations of the deal. But the way he only can come up with 5 if it's a non-Kohen, because one of the prohibitions that of the 5 has to do with a non-Kohen eating holy foods, and that only applies to a non-Kohen.
Got it.
The Rabbi Shimon from 2 pages ago, he also came up with.
He was saying according to Rabbi Shimon. It's all according to Rabbi Shimon. It's all in Rabbi Shimon's opinion. Rava's 5 is in Rabbi Shimon's opinion. So the Gemara says, Ein hachinami. This is a famous statement of Ein hachinami. Ein hachinami. You're right. But the Rava, exactly. The Rava, mehai kra kama. Rava means from that verse, I got 5. That's what Rava is saying. Okay. Comes another Gemara. Ama Rav Gidel Amarav. Rav Gidel says in the name of Rav, we were talking before about, there's a time period to eat from the korban. You have to wait until the blood was sprinkled on the altar. Let's say if you're a Kohen and or any korban, you can't jump the gun. You can't eat from the meat until it's been sprinkled on the altar. So now the Rav Gidel says, name of Rav, if you have a Kohen who wasn't patient, he didn't wait, and he went ahead and he ate from the chatat, which he's allowed to eat from a chatat. That's
no good.
But he didn't wait till the sprinkling of the blood.
It's not valid.
It's no good. Before the sprinkle of the blood, loka. He gets lashes. My timer, what do you say, Mr. Yeah, it has to be warned, and he did it intentionally, or else he's not going to get lashes. He didn't know if it's a Kohen, unlearned Kohen, we're not going to give lashes.
But the korban is pasur. It's asur. It's no good.
You see, the question is, Mr. Silverman, the rest of the meat of the korban. I'm not sure if the rest of the meat is invalid. Meaning, whatever he ate did not. You're correct. It did not create a kapara, but the Kohen's eating creates an atonement for the person. So, but I don't know that we don't know that the fact that he ate, let's say he ate a kazayit, right? He ate an olive size. Might not necessarily ruin everything else. You're right. His eating is invalid. It doesn't accomplish anything. But what about if his brother eats the rest of the korban? I'm not sure that the fact that one part he did wrong.
If he didn't throw the blood, it's asur.
I don't know, but let's say subsequently they threw the blood, meaning he didn't throw the blood. You're right. If you didn't throw the blood, that's the battery to have the kapara. They have to have the throwing of the blood on the altar. But if he ate before the throwing of the blood, and then they threw the blood, and his brother eats from it, that might not be a problem for the rest of the day. Okay, so the Gemara says, "My timer, why is there lashes for eating the meat of the korban before the sprinkling of the blood?" Because the pasuk says, the Torah says that if you eat it after there was a kapara, meaning there was already an atonement. The achar kapara after the atonement, after the sprinkling of the blood, then the Torah gives you a green light to eat it. The Kohen, lifnei kapara lo, before the atonement, you cannot eat from it. And the Gemara says, lav habam bechlal asay lafu. This opinion at this point of the Gemara is understanding that when you infer a don't, the Torah says a positive statement, tells you something, and then you figure out, but what you can't do, figuring out what you can't do from a positive statement that has a status of a low saseh, of a do not. That's what the Gemara is going to think at this point. But the Gemara is going to change at the end of the day. We're going to say, when the Torah tells us something, a positive statement, and you figure out what you can't do from it, that's not considered a don't of the Torah. That's considered a aseh. It doesn't have the same level. and we'll elaborate. We just touched it. We'll elaborate next week. Have a beautiful Shabbat, everybody.
Shabbat shalom, boys.
Thank you all for being on. What a beautiful screenshot over here, and a live shot, screenshot. We have over here. Beautiful. Have a great day. All the best,
Shabbat
everybody.
shalom, Rabbi. Bye-bye.
You too. A beautiful Shabbat to
boys.
everybody.
Shabbat shalom, mate.
Thank you,
Shabbat shalom,
Charles, for
boys.
joining. Thank you all for joining.
Shabbat
Bye
shalom.
bye. Shabbat shalom. Take care. Bye bye. Now we got to have a beautiful davening. That's the response.